Welcome to the Paleography virtual meeting for June. And this is from the International Institute of Genealogical Studies, found at genealogicalstudies.com. I'm Cheryl Levy, and we're just going to look at the paleography course. Okay, so again, this is the virtual meeting. We're going to be having virtual meetings for the paleography course every second month. So watch your calendar for those. And it is part of the methodology certificate, which is the foundation of all of our country courses and most of our PLCGS certificates have the methodology as their base. And the paleography course is one of the compulsory courses in the third level, which is the advanced level. And this is just all the courses that you would take as compulsory courses if you were going in our certificate program. And at the end of each level, there's 3 levels, basic, intermediate, and advanced. We will have an analysis and skills mentoring course that is an overview of the compulsory courses in that level. So what's in the paleography course? It is more than just understanding handwriting. It is reading, which part of it is understanding what the lettering is in order to read it, but also understanding the historical documents that go with it. So early documents, we're going to look at reading early documents, transcribing. We're going to look at grammar, and some of it has some pretty creative spelling variations. You can find 3 or 4 different spellings for the same word in the same document, even on the same page. And the reason is a lot of times they're writing it phonetically. So if you sound it out, what you are reading, and you're sure you got the letters, sound it out and see if you can figure out what the word is. Sometimes sound it out with an accent and see if you can figure out what that word is. But there was no standardization in spelling until I think in the 1800s. And so, and even into the 1900s. And then there's variations between England and Canada and the US and Australia. You know, there's different ways that they wrote things, and we're just, that's how they wrote them. And so they're going to have some pretty different spelling variations. The course also looks at Roman numerals and currency, because a lot of the documents will have Roman numerals, and so we need to know what those are. And currency, we need to know how to calculate the British currency, which was used in a lot of different countries. It's also going to look at calendars and the different calendars on dating, when the Julian and the Gregorian calendar, when they changed in each country, how that affected their record keeping, especially in civil records. And so we're going to look at, you know, what was the standards for recording dates in those records. There's also a section on weights and measures, and that one really was interesting to me. I didn't know that there were different measures for wine or linens or, you know, wool and all of those things, that they were very specific. And it's getting to understand the terminology that they were using and how the measurements were. And I plan to do some at least one session on weights and measures coming up. Also surveyors and how they did that. So that's the acres, the rods and chains, all of those land measurements are very important, in how they were different in different countries, in different areas. There's also a module on the church, manner, and social life. So church records, church events in the calendar marked certain things that would happen. And in the manor, the estate records, they all have their own um, ways of recording things, and social life, the fairs and the festivals, and when they changed like every year, the leases, and when they could be hired as an apprentice, all of those kind of things. Then there's going to be a section also on surnames and occupations, and there's going to be a section on Latin. And so and I'm going to speak to that in a moment. But there is a workbook that goes along with this course. This is an advanced level course. It is 10 weeks long, and there is a workbook that goes with it that gives you exercises to do at the end of each module to put into practice what you have just learned, and to transcribe and figure out the weights and measures from that. And it's really good workbook. This is one of my favorite courses. It was one of my most challenging courses, but I learned so much in it. It gives so much historical background. It's a lot more than just reading the handwriting. Really, the first module is the only one that focuses on different scripts, but then you have to put that into practice for all the other documents that are in the course. And so it is a really good course. And that's why we have a virtual meeting dedicated just to paleography. Now, I mentioned Latin. We have a course that is Latin for genealogists, and this is a intermediate level course, and it is a prerequisite for the paleography course. We found that a lot of people were, a lot of students were struggling with some of the Latin, and so we added this course as a compulsory course just to give you that background, because there's a lot more than you would think. Latin figures into records, and it's not just the languages, it's in numbers, it's in dates and times. We're going to have in the course dictionaries, Latin word lists, abbreviations, medical terms. That one was the one that was the hardest for me. And, it's hard enough reading those prescriptions and all of the abbreviations for medical terms, but then when they're in Latin besides. And so this is really going to help you. It's going to give you Latin given names. So some Catholic records and maybe some country records, when they're doing recording their church baptisms, they're giving their names in Latin. And so that can be very confusing. And so this will help you to understand that. It's going to go over some of the grammar for nouns and verbs, and a lot more, and vocabulary. And then it's going to go into Latin records in various countries, such as England, Ireland, Scotland, and Italy, the Italian records. And so this is a compulsory course for the intermediate level, and it is 7 weeks long. Okay. And of course, the basic, you're going to want to take this in the basic course, whether you're going for a certificate or not. This is really a basic course. You need to have your transcription course, and it goes into the rules of transcribing documents, making sure you have citations for those documents so you can find it again. How do you make it look the same in your software, your word processing software? So there's a section on how to do that, how to make superscripts and subscripts, and turn off the auto caps at the beginning of every sentence. And so it really will go through those rules and give you those skills. There's also sections on abstracting and extracting, and then there's exercises to put that into practice. And also talks about transcription forms, such as for census records. You don't need to write out all of those column headings. Use a form. And, it's the same form that they used when they were recording the information. And so use your transcription forms. And some are provided in the course. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a couple tips tonight, along with my little overview of the paleography course, just to give you some ideas of what you should do when you're transcribing and extracting out of documents. And so I just put a little section here about census tips. So census records can be a challenge for the handwriting. So get to know the enumerator. So there's one person who has recorded all of the information for that um, district or sub-district, and you'll get to recognize his handwriting. How did he make his G's? How did he make his D's? Did he abbreviate? How did he write those things in? Did he put Church of England? Did he write it out, or did he put C of E? Different abbreviations. What did he use? Because he should be consistent through all of those ones. So get to know his handwriting. Make sure that you're looking at the original document. People have transcribe these, and if they're unfamiliar with English, if they're unfamiliar with the surnames in that area, a lot of times the transcription is a guess and it's not correct. And so if you're on Ancestry or one of the other websites and you see that something is transcribed not correctly, put in a suggestion so that they can look at it and say, oh yeah, that's what that word is. Okay, compare the letters on the same page. And so make sure that you're comparing all of it, and that, look and see how that they are written on each entry. Okay, when you're searching for someone, make sure that you look at the page before and the page after, because they didn't stop at the end of the family and then start a new family on the next page. They just kept going. And so half of the family could be on one page, or even one person on the next page. And so make sure that you check that. You want to transcribe all of the details, and that's why a transcription form is really useful, so that you don't forget to enter every single column. And so that's, I love using the transcription forms. Get to know abbreviations, especially this one is for religion. You want to know what the abbreviations are. If there's an abbreviation for an occupation or a place, you want to know what that is. So get to know what the abbreviations are and what they mean. And names can be really difficult. This is just a little clip of several ways that I have found George written. And it really depends on the person who's writing it to how it is. And so you're looking for that, the name. And so sometimes, like, the D's can look so different, and you could mistranscribe them. An S and an I and a J look very similar, and a T sometimes. And you really get to look and make sure that you've got those names. If you are having trouble finding somebody in the census, look for the unusual name. Everybody has the Johns and the Marys, and look for something. I have a family. The name is Osborne, and so I always look for him, because then I know that I have the right family, and then I check all the other children. But he's an unusual name. So if you have an unusual name, that's an easy way to find somebody in the census, and then you can figure out the rest. Sometimes searching by the first name, sometimes reverse them. Sometimes they It's supposed to be surname first and then the given name, but sometimes they wrote it the other way. And so when you're looking for it, reverse the names and see if you might find it then. Sometimes they use a middle initial, or sometimes they just use initials. And so again, that's going to be important to know how to read those capitals if they're just initials, because you don't have a clue of what the other letters are. And so you're going to really have to figure out what those capitals are. And there was no A plus for spelling. They just wrote what they thought. And if that's how they wrote that name, then that's what they wrote down, because they were told the name and they wrote it down, and they wrote it down the way they thought it was spelled. If you find variations, make a list of them. So I have one, the name was Farnell, which starts with an F, and in one of the censuses, it was PH instead of an F. And so check, then you would write it down. I wouldn't think to look for that. But again, I looked for an unusual name and then I found them. Also, the gender and the relationships can help. Sometimes the gender may not be correct, but sometimes the names are the same. And is that a boy or a girl? And so the gender can help you to identify them. Okay, I'm also just going to show you a couple of the records that I have found and transcribed, and just give you a couple little examples. This one is from Massachusetts Town and Vital Records. These are township records. This is what it looked like on Ancestry, the whole page. And then I narrowed down into just the entry for the family that I was looking for. And what happened in the township records is they recorded the events in the town, but if a new family came into the town, they listed the family with all of the children in one list. And then if there were other children, they added it at the bottom. So you can see that this one, it's a list of all the Perry family and the dates that they were born. And then at the very bottom, there's one added extra, which is my ancestor, but you can tell that it was written in at a different time. And that's what's good about looking at original documents, because if I was looking at just somebody who had transcribed it and it was typed, they might just put it all down in a list, and that's correct because it is all in a list, but you wouldn't be able to tell by the handwriting that it was written at a different time. And then there's the transcription of my ancestor Samuel Perry's birth. Okay, I also found a will for another ancestor, Ezra Perry, and you can tell that the handwriting is quite different. This is from 1728, and it is a lot different than the one that was in 1735. And sometimes the clerks themselves wrote differently, and so it would depend on their education and their training to how they wrote the records. Okay. Another thing I wanted to share with you is if you can find transcription projects on websites, they can have some good information. This is from the National Archives, and it is a booklet. It's a PDF that you can download right from their website, and it has all kinds of tips for reading historic documents, transcribing tables and charts, clues for 18th and 19th century documents, and it's 11 pages in a PDF form, downloaded, and it might just help you to figure out some of those things in your documents that you're having trouble with. Another site was the National Archives. So the previous one was in America. This one is in England and in the UK, and they have a section on paleography as well. A lot of archives do have, and some universities as well will have sections on transcribing and helps for paleography. This is the same, the National Archives, the TNA from the UK. This is an older website. The older version, it's archived now, but you can still access it. And it has a lot of information in there that was helpful to me. Okay, another project for transcription, especially if you want to practice and you want to do it on, you don't have any old documents yourself, and so you want to practice on some. This is papers from the War Department from 1784 to 1800, and there's some pretty interesting documents in there, and then you transcribe them, you click that it's done, and then it goes into their resources. Somebody checks it, and it's helping them to transcribe them, but it's also giving you practice and of using real historic documents. There is a search section. You can see it at the top. You can search by place. You can search by name. If you're looking for something, how cool is it if you would find something with the surname? I did search for a surname, and I found one. I think it's his cousin. And you might get it before it's actually released because it hasn't been transcribed yet. So that's another place to look and to get transcription practice. Okay, another website for colonial American handwriting. And this one has some good tips in there as well, and some good examples of handwriting in colonial records. There's another website. This was actually an article. It's an article. It's a web page from taking pages from a book from 1786 and showing you what they were teaching in the different scripts, and they would be used for different things. And so the everyday person would be writing common if you were a lawyer, so maybe the wills or whatever, you a clerk, you would have a different legal handwriting, and so it just gives you some more examples. Okay, this was another website, and it was an early American handwriting. But what I liked on this one, it had a little clue, a little quiz, and then you just click start, and you have to try and figure out what these letters are, and then it gives you a score, and that was kind of fun. Okay. Another resource that I wanted to share with you was Family Search genealogical word lists. And these are very cool because it gives you, sometimes you have to look in documents and you don't know the language. And rather than trying to learn the language, sometimes all you need is the words that are in the document to figure it out. So you want to have the word for born and married and father and mother and son. And so these give you those common genealogy words that we use, that we're looking for, so that when you're looking at a document in another language, you can figure it out. If not perfectly, at least you get the idea so that you know if that's a document that you're going to want to transcribe and translate. Okay, so that is another resource on a family search. Okay, these are just some of the books that I have in my library because I love transcribing, and I really enjoy reading old historic documents and figuring it out. I think it's from when I was a child, and you had those codes and you had to figure out what the letter was to the code, and sometimes it's like a code. And so, make a cheat sheet. So on this blue cover, you see all the different letters. If you're having trouble with a document, just cut and paste those letters and make an alphabet sheet, and or a word that you've figured out, and you want to make sure that you remember that's how that word was written. Just make a little cheat sheet, and have those letters. If you can find the sheets, and sometimes in the genealogy word list, they'll also have a sheet for the letters of how they wrote the alphabet in that country. Download those. Those are going to be very helpful when you're doing transcriptions. Okay, and so that is what I had to share with you tonight. Our next paleography virtual meeting will be in August, so check the student calendar. Some of these will be posted on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, thank you for coming and seeing what we're all about. And I have quite a few topics that I plan to be sharing in future paleography meetings, but I wanted to just give you an overview of the course, and then I will start featuring different topics on work that's in the modules to help you to transcribe and understand the documents that you are finding for your research. And we want to transcribe every document that we find. And in order to do that, we need to understand about it and we need to be able to read it. And so the paleography course and the paleography virtual meetings are meant to help you to do that. Okay, and so thank you for joining me. This has been the Paleography virtual meeting. I'm Cheryl Levy, and it is with the International Institute of Genealogical Studies, found at genealogicalstudies.com. Come and check us out and see what courses may help you in your research, and enjoy watching the videos. Thank you.